I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy. Think that it was meant to be. Living in a town.
Hello and welcome listeners to another episode of Tactical Awareness. We're back with Season 1, Episode 26. Half a year. We did half a year. This is crazy. Half a year of episodes weekly. And it is time for ARO, Aleph, the post-humans, the human AI and its sort of subordinate aspects, trying to keep humanity safe from the evolved intelligence of the combined army and their own stupidity and internal fighting. I'm joined as always by Owen and Dan. We will pick apart the two sectorials that make up this faction and then break down how you face Aleph as its combined whole form. So let's jump in, see how everyone's doing, and we'll get this going. It's all gonna actually work out this time.
This ain't no honest wargamer podcast.
I'm just glad you guys can hear me because I am in the boonies and the boondocks right now, and I was afraid that my internet was not going to be good enough to actually like stream. Although it was struggling. I'm gonna go show you stuff on my phone, so I've since turned that off, so that hopefully this audio quality stays excellent for another tactical awareness. And we're doing another takedown, but we got some cool news this week. We got a new digital second edition rulebook. So in our little news, what's new update, we're going to talk about that stuff, which is super exciting. We got some forwards and backwards momentum on things, and then a little bit of a cripple to bioimmunity. And then we're going to go and move into ARO and Aleph and talk about taking down the robots, taking down the Blade Runners, the post-humans, the human AI that basically sits in the middle of everything and tries to act like the UN for the human sphere and keep everybody sort of like from actively, openly going to war against each other. They just go to war economically and through covert ops. So I'm joined by Owen and Dan, and we are going to catch you up on what we've been doing this week, what we've been working on, and what is new with Infinity. So I'm going to kick it off with the news because we've talked about this at length, gone through this update, but Corvus Belli has done a 2.0 digital rulebook, which means the digital rulebook has been ratified with a bunch of additional rules and content, which is great. And one of, I think, the best parts about Infinity is that because it can all be updated sort of like at will, any changes in the FAQ can be just put in the main rules. But they did result in a few changes that were a bit unexpected. And the first one is the change to bioimmunity. So bioimmunity no longer ignores the ammo type when applying damage. So all it does is you use the value. It still affects the stat, but you use the value of the other stat when you switch stats. So what do you guys think about that?
Because before, when it was like K1, it was armor equals 0. The bioimmunity would be like, what, I'm using BTS, suckers.
That's right. Yeah. So what you would do is before you would take it on the opposite stat. Now it says they reworded it to you use the value of the opposite stat, but it remains the stat that you're taking the hit on.
That's fine.
Well, kind of like if that's the case, then
both
it kind
of the
of
bioimmunity
ruins,
units that people play.
Yeah, it kind of ruins the
them.
bioimmunity unit. So there's like 2 or 3 in particular that really took it in the teeth. The Zeodrons for and the Overdrawn in Combined Army like specifically took it in the teeth because it was really their thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're still fine though. I mean, look at the Shakoosh.
Yeah.
Like they're fine tags. Like they get a lot of things done. I don't know.
Being immune to AP and being armor 6 is a huge deal, right? Like because they're 5/6, it means that when they're immune to AP, all of a sudden they're always fixed 6. That's actually better against AP guns than an armor 8 tag.
Right.
So
it's almost like you need to change that to make it work. Yeah, because they'd switch it so that they weren't armor.
That's right.
Because they were 6/6, so they were always going to be resilient against breaker and AP weapons.
That's right. So breaker, you would switch to the armor side, and you would take on the armor instead. So you'd be immune to the effects of breaker, basically, and then vice versa. Even viral, you could switch over to armor if you want to, not take it on BTS.
Yeah, I think that's dialed too far, and that they should lose that.
You think so?
That's fine. There's
For like
still
the 3
solid
bioimmunity units
tags.
right there. I don't know. They just feel less
Well, this is the
special.
thing. This is my perspective on biometric visor. It's like, just get rid of it. Don't even have it in the game.
But I'll be fair.
Like-
Biometric virus is effectively useless. It does so little. Like
the
I've never
two
really
models
seen
in the
it.
game that it works against, not including the Hollow Echo surprise attack, which is like mega corner case.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point? And like, if bioimmunity is now mildly less effective, oh no, the zero draw. We changed the points cost on the bulleteer. The bulleteer oppression is over, guys. Zeodron Batroids aren't dominating anymore, everyone.
But they weren't dominating before. It just doesn't
I
feel
know.
necessary.
That's
Does that
the
make
joke.
sense? Like I understand the reaction to it though, because it doesn't feel like it needed to happen because they already weren't like taking everybody's lunch money. You know, like those units weren't already dominating the
it's a
field. But they just had
bulleteer.
a
Same thing.
thing that made them different. That's all.
Yep. Now all they have is linkable tag Harris with K1 marksman rifles and super jump. Damn.
That's all right.
One day will be cool.
I mean, geckos get that too.
Yeah, but these guys are also cheaper. Actually, the gecko is arguably. They're the same price as geckos.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry. I'm thinking
as
of
a
the
newer
Shikers.
player.
Yeah, I think the shit.
Okay, so as a newer player, it seems like it just cleans up the rules a little bit, where it's just easier to understand. But then
That
you might as well
isn't
just get rid of
intuitive.
bioimmunity, because then you just make both their values the same, and then ta-da, bioimmunity.
Right.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
in most cases, there's a better stat.
Right.
But because like AP now applies to it, if those stats are roughly the same, typically the AP means they're still the same. Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like there's no point in switching.
But what I'm saying is that they could remove bioimmunity from the game, and everyone who had bioimmunity just match their higher stat with each other, and boom, you have the same rules.
Yeah, true.
Also, AP immunity is a skill now.
Sure,
And
it's so crit immunity,
should you get that in addition to this other trait? Like if we're
Sure,
trying
yeah,
to
they
talk
could just call
about
it
not
with keywords.
nesting things,
Yeah, that's a
right?
good point.
Like that was a big selling point, was like, oh, camo no longer gives you stealth, and like berserk or courage doesn't give you blah blah, like all of these different abilities. Martial arts doesn't give you courage. Why does bioimmunity give you armor AP immunity?
Yeah, true.
So now it's just you can use either of your stats when you're being attacked.
Yeah,
Makes sense to me. I think the no vaulting while jumping and climbing is a bigger impact than bioimmunity.
So it doesn't. So interestingly enough, it doesn't get rid of the FAQ, which means technically that FAQ still applies. It just didn't add it to the rules. Like it feels more like a weird oversight because that FAQ still exists. They didn't take it down.
Oh, so you still can vault.
Yeah, they just didn't add it to the rule book. And vaulting is still part of the core rules.
Thankfully, it's a living document. We'll just add it in at a later date.
Yeah, that feels like what it actually was. So I think that one might be a bit of an overreaction. And even if it is, it only really affects super jump because the parts about climb and using and like adding your silhouette to the movement going up were added the movement rules, a part of the core rule movement like rules. It's just the vaulting part that now seems to be like implied instead of explicit. So like when you're jumping,
blowing people's minds.
Yeah, like you would vault jumping down, but you would not vault jumping up is the weird thing. Right? So like the way that it's written right now, if they don't add that exception in, the parapet is vaulted on the way down because it's less than your silhouette height, right? On the way over the edge, but then going up, you have to go up over the whole wall. So you have to measure the whole vertical distance, and that whole vertical distance is taller than your silhouette. So it's a weird interaction, and maybe that's intentional. I guess we'll find out.
This is my real question: is when you're using climbing plus, you're sideways on the wall.
Yep.
When you reach the top lip, do you continue straight up and then lever down?
No, you flip immediately
as
soon as you're traveling in a different direction.
Hover, and then slide on.
So the moment that you are traveling a different direction, you flip, right? So the second that your lip touches, like the measurement touches the top of the parapet, you then flip to the very leading edge of your base and standing straight up. Because you only ever move in a direction, right, across with your base in contact with the surface. So as soon as you hit that point where you're going to start moving horizontally instead of vertically, you'd flip to standing up. And
But
right now...
But how does that work when you're going down? You go over hover.
It's
and
the
then
same
snap
thing.
down?
You snap as soon as the back of your base hits that, right? Because you're no longer traveling horizontally.
There's a brief moment where you're wild EI or wild whatever coyote.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's right.
So you
And you're
slide
hanging- you're
out,
hanging
hovering,
out,
and
and
then
then
fall
you-
down and snap.
and
And
then
when you're
flip.
going up, you're saying as soon as you touch the edge.
No, you
Not-
go up
it's
past
the
the edge
front?
again until
So
you
it's the
start
back.
moving towards it.
So you move up to the back of it. So you're
No,
poking
until the
out
front.
sideways?
It's whenever your direction
What
changes.
possible direction could back be?
Yeah,
That could mean
So-
literally anything.
yeah.
Dan.
No. You're moving up. You're moving up as the back.
It's always when the front of your. It's always when the leading edge of your base starts moving in a different direction. So as soon as you hit the edge of something,
going up.
as soon as you hit the edge of something, walking off the top of it, you flip to face down, right? Basically, imagine it like a bridge going up, right? Like
This is not
opening.
obvious in the rules. I've tried to look it up many times.
Yeah.
Okay. This is honestly, this is just your opinion right now. I don't even know.
Fair enough.
This
It just says you are always in horizontal base contact with the direction you're moving. Is the way that it's written. So it implies that would be when you would do it. Is when you.
So
would
when
change
you were
movement direction.
touching the side of the wall, the bottom of your base was touching the side of the wall, and you stuck out on like a 90-degree, right? Like that. That is not confusing, Dan.
Like facing up or facing down over.
Facing
doesn't matter
direction
'cause
is
it's during
irrelevant.
movement. Yeah. Just your
Moral of the
silhouette is
story
doing it because it's
your
a cone
silhouette
or
is
a
now
tube.
90-degree angle off of the wall because your base is flush with it, right?
Yeah. So you're stuck on the
Okay.
side of the wall, poking out.
Perfect. Yeah. So the top of your base is away from the wall. The bottom of your base is flat, flush with the wall.
Right.
As you move up the wall, until you're moving onto the rooftop, which is to say, changing direction, you are still bottom of your base to the wall. So if that means that there's like a lip that you go over, you move vertically until the top of the back end of your base has reached that lip. Then you snap down onto the top.
It's actually when the front of your base hits the lip because you actually snap and your back of your base is hanging in the air, and then you start measuring again because you
Okay,
measure
there you
from
go.
the edge of the lip. Yeah.
So as soon as the top of
You
your
got
base
the
gets
same
there,
principle, yeah.
you stand up. Yeah.
I don't think it actually matters. It's the same distance overall.
Also, the line of sight wouldn't change there, but
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
irrelevant. Moral of the story is that's the process.
Mhm.
Does
You're
that
gonna
make it-
occupy all the same space no matter how you measure those two things.
Yeah.
So then the addition to follow-up question is it impossible to get cover while coming over a ledge then?
Always. Yeah. You never when vaulting, climbing or jumping, you're never eligible for cover period.
Right. But when do you stop climbing?
When you're
you have
moving
your base flat on the
horizontally.
roof.
Yeah. So like if you don't enter line of sight until you're no longer climbing, like you're no longer considered to be performing a climb, if you've got like climb plus or whatever, then you'd be able to claim cover during that the portion at which you're visible. But if at any point you're visible while you're climbing, you don't have cover.
I guess the question is, so if we'll say the front of the silhouette or the leading edge of the silhouette, that sideways touches the edge, and then you snap up and are hovering, and then you move forward until you're
still climbing.
until
Yeah, you're
you're
still
fully
climbing.
on the rooftop, you're still count as
Yeah.
climbing.
And if there's a parapet, you're still hurdling too until you drop down, right? So like all during that point you get a cover.
What about with ladders? The same, is it counted as climbing as well, or no?
Ladders have their own rules.
Yeah, ladders are just regular movement that's done horizontally.
So you can pop up off of a ladder and get cover.
I believe so.
Also,
Yeah.
elevation will give you cover while you're climbing too.
Yeah.
No,
I
but
think.
no, climbing plus will never give you cover.
No, elevation.
elevation
Elevation
doesn't
doesn't
give
actually give you cover now because it's during a climb vault or jump.
Right? That's just not very intuitive that you're climbing a ladder, or I got cool suction cups and I can
Well,
climb the wall.
ladders are like stairs. They're treated like stairs that just go vertically. That's all.
All I'm saying, this is not very, it's confusing.
I mean, infinity's confusing. Learn the
Yes.
rules, Dan.
Yes. It's not intuitive.
That's fair. Anyway, because what we needed was to know everything and then not know it all over again. The rule book's been out, and there's lots of things that are kind of up in the air again. So we're back to square one. There's a bit of disagreement. Most of us think that we're just going to go off what the FAQ says until we are told otherwise. There was a couple other things in there. I can't remember exactly what they were. But there was a cool infographic I was looking at. Summarized all of it. 1 second. That was taken from the Infinity Global community, which was really cool. And the picture of it is, I found one picture of it. Oh shoot, I don't remember the rest of them. Those are the two big ones though. Those are the top ones, Bioimmunity and whatchamacallit, and my internet's too slow for me to find these things.
Potentially not a change.
Yeah, potentially things. Yeah, and potentially not a change to climbing and stuff. Oh, here, I think I found it. Unfortunately, summary. Nope, that's from a long time ago. Yeah, I can't find it. Doesn't matter.
I don't care.
Yeah,
nothing really major changed.
No, that's fair.
The climbing thing is up for debate, and also climbing is so rarely, in my experience, down to the nitty gritty of those like interactions that it matters. Like you either can or you can't. And I've had very few opponents who are like, "I'm pretty sure I can make this climb." It's like, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is it close? Like, yeah, there's no effective way for us to bend the measuring tape the way that the diagram says. But like, if you're within fractions of inches of that last step, yeah, you're probably close enough. And if you're not, you're not. So
it's okay.
Nailed it. And then the bioimmunity thing is, this is nested rules, and it's another way to get rid of it. And yeah, it affects some units out there.
Yeah.
Oh no, those guys that no one used.
And they might sneaky update AP immunity or immunity breaker, or like they might sneaky update like just tags onto those models too to make bioimmunity simple, and then just add the intended effect on top of it too. You never know. That might just be coming because Army gets updated sometimes and we find these things out.
Yep.
All right, well, let's dive into what people have been doing this week. Of course, the weather's great, but the country's on fire. And that's made it difficult to go outside. So I haven't been doing a lot of anything because I've been trying to keep my kids from like coughing like they smoke a pack a day by going outside, and generally keeping my house in order. So I've been doing some painting, but not Infinity. And that's about it. What have you guys been doing?
I've been painting Infinity and Blood and Plunder and Malifaux, and I've just been like super ADD where I'm like, I'll finish half of this model. Well, I won't finish half of this model, put a layer on this, and I'll go do this. I'm like, what am I doing? I just need to put everything on my room, on my desk. I need to focus on one thing. But today I have some big Yuqing. That's the faction I've collected. I have some of those models.
They've arrived. I think. Did we even announce that? Did we tell people? You finally started getting your Yuqing to trickle in?
So some of them arrived.
Some of them were wrong.
I ordered the collection pack and they gave me the action pack.
Whoopsie. Those are two sizably different things.
Yeah. So instead of like 10 models, I wanted 26 and they overlap. So I'm like, and apparently it's back ordered from their distributor.
Crap.
So I sent back the action pack. And so we will wait. It was just it's annoying because that's like the core, like
that's all the important stuff. Yeah.
And then I have all the additional stuff. I have the fun stuff. So I could probably scrounge together some lists, but just to try them out.
Because the action pack or the collection pack has like the remotes in it. It has like the Blue Wolf, I think. It's all the Code 1 stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, everything from Code 1.
So some cool models in there. The Hadow's in there. The whatchamacallit, the ambush unit, the Hundun. There's an amazing unit. I think you get a Hacktow in there as well. Lots of Zanshis.
Yeah, I already have a separate Hacktow. Or no, Yan Huo.
Yanhao, yeah, the hyper magnetic kind of one.
Yeah. But I need two of them so I can put them both on Overwatch. And
are they burst 6? Are they double hyper rapid? Oh, they're single hyper rapid. It's double rocket launchers or missile launchers, something like that, isn't it, for the other one?
Yeah, yes. They have a few
the neurokinetic missile launcher.
Missile launcher. That's hilarious.
Or you can put them in links, which is like a similar thing where they just get the +1 burst. Either way,
can you link the hyper rapid? Can you get burst 6? Is it the only burst 6 gun in the game? Can you link the HRMC?
I don't think it's the NCO one.
I think it duos. I think it duos, but it doesn't go to Harris. Because if it goes to Harris, that'd be bananas. A burst 6 hyper rapid.
It goes to Harris, but he's not NCO, so he doesn't, or not FTO. So he's
so they specifically make it so you can't link that one.
Yeah. So sad.
I mean, I don't blame them. Burst 6 hypermagnetic, it sounds ridiculous.
But he's only like DS13. Wait, where is this guy?
Yeah, but that's 6 chances at a 5% crit. When you're throwing 6 dice.
I was doing math of like actual crit chances. I like
Right.
just fishing for one
Of
crit,
instancing,
how many
yeah.
dice,
Yeah.
and it doesn't reduce too much because it's only like the 5% increments. So it's
Yeah.
like the 4 dice is still like an 18% chance instead of the 20.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Pretty sweet though.
yeah.
I'm excited about you, Chang. Did you decide which of the factions you want to do first? You're just gonna do like the core
All of them.
hyperpower.
I'm gonna jump back and forth between them all, and probably.
I mean, I know you are, but I'm just thinking like which
And,
one's got you the most excited?
Well, 2 things have me excited. One is Imperial Service with all the prisoners.
Ooh, yeah.
Just the cheapo Celestial Guard and the where are they? What are they called? The Quan Chi.
Oh, the Quan Chi, yeah. The
Yeah.
guys. The only models aren't aliens that explode.
The 5-point regular orders. It's beautiful.
Yes, they disagreed with the powers that be, and now they wear bomb vests. You're decidedly not playing the good guys.
And then they also have Sujans they can duo.
Yeah,
with
Sujan's pretty
motorized
great.
bounty hunters and different things.
Mhm.
So that just seems fun to try. And
Definitely.
then there's the Invincible Army of like grabbing the crazy super core that has, I don't know, like has like 16 orders in like 10 in the 10 group, or maybe more. Actually.
You mean team tactical awareness, where you go
Yeah. Everyone is
all
tactical
Shang-Chi all the
awareness,
time.
and then you get like lieutenant with extra orders, and you're the guy that adds NCO in there, and then you're just like, I get
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 20 Orders.
all of the times. Good luck, everybody.
Gonna take so many actions. This one comic group has 20 orders in it.
Yeah, and just hopefully they don't have the M mites.
That would be bad. You had pretty crazy BTS, and I think they have a firewall -6 too, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they're a great unit. They're pretty fantastic. I'm
kind of looking at variations of that.
Nice.
But otherwise, I'm just building other little things. I got like Lagon, Lord of Thunder. He's got these crazy big drop troop wings, but he doesn't even have.
He's 6'2". He's got rollerblades. He's got rollerblades. Yeah,
Come
man,
on.
6'2".
Half the other guys.
He's a 6'2", not
They look
heavy
normal.
infantry. He's fast, man. He's got his roller
Not heavy
skates.
infantry.
Got his space skates on.
But he's got Albedo, so that would be fun.
Does have Albedo. He is situationally very useful. He is a nightmare for Atalanta. That's about it.
But also, he's got chain of command, so
worth taking. Worth it.
Anyways.
Wait, what about you, Owen? What have you been working on? You're painting yellow.
Yeah, painting Space Marines.
Nice.
I played a couple games over the weekend, this past weekend.
Yeah.
I played my Shazvasti again. Into what was he playing? I think it was Ariadna. Yes, it was Ariadna. No, it was Morats. It was Morats.
They're like Ariadna.
Because he had his big sniper link, and then he had his big huge guy with MSV1 and blah blah blah. And the Guilo's like, I've come to kill all of you.
No dear.
Yeah.
He brings his cover with him.
It's more the Albedo. That's really
the Albedo's bad news, yeah, for sure.
Because he's like, I'm gonna walk past you. If you shoot me, I'm gonna have 6 cents and I won't get any mods. Oh, I know. Walk. Okay, now I'm not in that guy's line of fire, but I can see the other guy in the group now. Okay, he's
I'm gonna
dead.
kill all your friends. You're gonna wake up one day and all your friends are gonna be dead. You're not gonna know how.
So there's only 3 of you now. All right, Guilo stands up.
Let's dance. Let's go.
Oh, you're -9. Let's go.
That's right. Did you take the rocket or did you take the HMG?
Rocket for the MSV. So
yeah,
MSV Albedo.
Mm-hmm.
And then linked him with 2 of the remotes to give him a bunch of attack aware moves.
Fun.
And they ran around and did their thing and Tiger Beast. And then we played another game of JSA where I just got lucky. There's no
Shinobu did Shinobu things or something like that.
No, Ryukin 9.
So good.
Up, shoots the 5th guy in the link team, who's the link leader, and kills.
The hidden deploy Batu is amazing.
He wasn't hidden deploy. Just walked out.
Oh, amazing.
just was my reserve mini. Kills the link. Run around, fight a bit. Don't get really much done. Will Wallace comes running up the stairs to kill him. Will Wallace gets crit in the face with the breaker pistol and dies.
His little button eyes, man. He got your little button eyes. He turned his button eyes
he's
to
like,
kill.
I got no wound in cap. He's only got a burst 1 pistol. I hit you with 3 templates. And it's like right between the eyes. Oh, it's breaker. It's a breaker pistol for no reason.
No reason.
Wally has no defense.
He's Section 9, man. He's got the big gun. He's the guy who kills the spider tank at the end with his giant like super gun.
I still almost lost.
I mean, they're not. It's
start
easy
of
for
his
the fall apart.
start of his turn, he loses his lieutenant, and I'm on the back foot for most of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the categories did pretty great. But then it's not Uxia, it's the other hacker.
Oh, Isabel McGregor.
Isabel made many saves.
She can be surprising too because she's a Type 2 rifle. She's got all kinds of tricks that you don't expect from a hacker. She's
none
no
of that mattered when the category with the heavy shotgun walked around the corner and was just like, just die, human.
Structure 3 total immunity is gonna get some work done.
She's like, dodge, pass save, dodge, pass save, pass save, dodge, pass save. I'm like, all right, I'm out of orders. I've done all I can. I only had like 8 to start, so
yeah, and she just gets away with it.
Yeah,
it's funny when you start thinking of the Karakuri as a gecko team because that's what they are. They're a total immunity gecko team
with a Domaru.
It's
little EM grenades.
Crazy. It's so crazy that they're like a size 2 gecko team, like stat wise. It's bananas.
Yeah, especially when it's like, oh, melee is the thing that we do not want to happen. And then you have a Domaru who's just around in case of emergency.
Oh, just break glass if you need me. I will go kill whatever you need me to kill.
That Galwegian dodged into combat with the Katakuri. Stand aside, ladies. I'll do this.
Stand aside. I'm gonna berserk this guy's brakes off. I'm gonna drag this guy through the dirt.
And I get +2 burst with my EM melee weapons, and you die.
That's right. Yeah, the Domarus are pretty great at melee.
And they're cheap. They're like 20 points,
yeah.
16 or
the
something.
The chain
crazy.
rifle ones are super cheap, yeah.
Well, that's all you bring, right? Because the Katakuris are doing all the fighting. Like he's literally an order.
I think you're lieutenant. Just chain rifle lieutenant. Why not?
I can think of reasons not to do that, but
you could. I can think of reasons to do it. Like you're
actually,
not gonna come fight this guy.
I had Lieutenant what's her name? Kuroshi Rider.
And I'm making bad choices. Jesus.
It was a weird game. Yeah. Hey,
so
you
good.
You got an NCO.
No, fair enough.
And then I'm painting Space Marines.
Space
Marines.
Yeah, you got the bug.
Oh, I did buy a bunch of Shakushas and the Agamemnon too.
Did you?
Yeah,
because you're gonna proxy it as what?
No, I'll use them as Shakushas.
I have them double Shakush.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm really unimpressed with the Siacast models for both of these guys.
Really?
So I generally really like Infinity models, both for detail and like style. And for whatever reason, they look really plain and like not much is going on. Like the Agamemnon especially has like really shallow details, and like you can see that parts have just been like, wow, this is a whole bunch of blank space. I know, let's just dimple it a little bit. And it's like, it doesn't serve any purpose. Like if you look at the back of his legs where there's like rockets that are on there for some reason, they just kind of blend away into nothing. Like they're not tubes all the way into his legs. They're tubes for a while, then they've slapped a piece on, and then it just kind of blends in with the rest of his leg.
It's funny because I think maybe they were like an early concept, because like newer ones like the Gator is fantastic. Like most of the Psycho stuff I've gotten, and this is not even like the Ninja Cool stuff, which is the newer stuff, like that new Marut.
Well, the Shakush is way cooler.
Yeah,
but even he suffers a little bit of the like we've just added holes to make up for the fact that there's not much going on a lot of these body parts.
Like add surface detail,
yeah. And it's part of it is they're sitting right next to heavy intercessors from Games Workshop, who are the same size as them, but are like covered in little bits and bobs and
also made from a completely different material, right? They're made from like a modular hard styrene.
Sure, but like from a consumer standpoint, where I look at this and go like, they're plastic, right? They don't give the same vibe, I guess. I
Sure,
don't know.
yeah.
Which is,
I mean, I bet
weird
I'm sure
against-
if Corvus Belli had like, you know, $1 million hard plastic styrene casting machines, they would 100% do those plastics too.
Sure,
It's
but
just,
then I look at like a Fusilier, like the
Yeah.
old metal one here, and she's got all kinds of stuff going on. Like they're beside each other. Like, and it's a smaller model. The surface area still has a case of like, oh, what are we going to do here? Oh, well, let's put a pistol on, and then the straps will go all the way around the leg, and then on the backpack we're going to have shoulder pads, and the shoulder pads have like the newer guy, like the at least the Agamemnon specifically has none of that shit going on. He's just
right.
like a bunch of smooth surfaces that have been jammed together in the facility or in the shape of a person.
Right. Well,
And
I think that's again why they're constantly evolving their materials. I will say the Unicool stuff is much harder edged. That AR that I have with the shotgun is incredibly detailed, like super nice. So I think that the Siocast was probably a good stopgap. It allowed them to stop spending tons of money on metal miniatures that you only buy one of, that they're probably losing money selling you, and then we'll see where it goes.
I guess what I'm saying is that it's not the material, it's the design.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, so the material will dictate the design too, though, right? Because a softer material, you can't have harder edges because you can't pull it out of the mold without damaging the material as it cools. So there's like restrictions to using a softer material that isn't metal. You can cast harder details and smaller details in metal because they'll resist damaging when you pull them out of the mold.
The robots in the new Siocast, right?
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
The robots are. Currently, I think all of the remotes for the Nomads are. There's a new Nomad remote that is as well, which is the Meteor's on. Trying to think of what else I have that's in Siocast. All the new big remotes, the Probots for Aleph are. The Fuzzbots, I believe, are as well for O12.
I guess the real rub of it is it's been a long time since I spent as much as I did on those miniatures to be as disappointed as I am with like
That's fair.
what they are.
Sure.
Like it's one of those, I didn't realize how, like I obviously Infinity has really good paint jobs on all of their products, and I didn't realize how much of it was the paint job.
Was being lifted by the paint job. I gotcha.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, well, fair enough. I mean, I have them. I'll use them. I'll make the best of it. But
not for you. Got it.
Not for me.
That's fair.
Not this particular guy, anyway.
Not that particular guy, yeah.
Shakushes, they're fun.
No
weird faces.
Corvus Belli,
I like
Owen
that.
has a frowny face on right now.
That's Owen's,
Yeah.
Owen's
and you
making
have
a
no one to blame but yourself.
frowny face.
Buff the Shakush.
Make the Shakush better than the Agamemnon. No,
Make
it'll
him
be happy
better
again.
than a random model in any faction.
Make it better than Karakuri.
Make him better than an Asawira.
Good luck.
That's the bar.
Just make him linkable. It'll be fine.
Oh, I also want to say, like,
Triple
the
Shakush.
crane rank and the pheasant rank Imperial agents with like the little like tail off the back of their head, like zealots from StarCraft.
Mm-hmm.
I love them.
Isn't that cool?
I love it so
They
much.
look really
They're gonna
cool.
break, but I love them.
Yeah, there was a time where gluing the antennas onto Infinity miniatures was the thing Owen and I had the furthest in common, because he would just leave them off all of his nights and I would glue them on mine, and Owen would just be like, no one gets them. Everyone's just bald. And that's when he painted his guys like Iron Man, because nobody had like the little finials. He didn't even bother gluing them on. It was really funny.
I mean, that checks out. That sounds exactly like Owen. Exactly like Owen.
Just immediately gave up on it.
Yep.
I think it's time to get into the Aleph takedown. We're gonna start talking about the three Aleph factions. We'll do them in the same order Owen's laid out, and then we did them previously. So starting with the operation subsection, steel flanks, and then Aleph prime. And I'm gonna do the same thing that we did in the previous two episodes, which means give the guys a chance to give their thoughts on what you think of when you think of that faction, primary threats. I'll give my ideas of what I think primary threats are, and then we will do a breakdown. What are some common tools people can use in all different armies, or things to consider when fighting these factions? So let's start with the operation subsection. Now, Owen's played this army actually when it first came out. He played, what was it? Cold Front was the one that the star set you and I split, and you took that side. I did the Kazakhs.
That sounds correct.
And you loved this army. We played an Infinity League with it actually, and you you assured your way to to great frustration for some players, which is really funny. So that means we should probably start with Dan. Have you played against this army, Dan? You played
Nope.
against OSSS? No. Do you have any? There's some units in here you're familiar with, obviously, like Dart's in here, Parvati's in here.
I don't know. I know. Doesn't Dart have like a bow?
She does. Yes, she's a camo viral bow.
That's fun. 1 die. Ooh, yeah. That's fun.
That's the perfect reaction to Dart. Every time someone's like, "No, guys, Dart does a lot of work," it's like, yeah, anyone can do work if you give them orders. 34 points for
it's
a
the
one
MSV1
wound, no wound
SMG
incap.
actually that's pretty great, and the EM grenades. EM grenades, MSV1, viral typo, and submachine gun can be pretty clutch. And she has like a library of skills. But anyway, we're not here to talk about basic core things. Talk to me about what you think of then, Owen, if you're gonna get started, because Dan's clearly lost here.
Yeah, I honestly, okay, so I don't find anything in this faction as like a standout compared to the other factions. The things that I'd be worried about here are the Asuras. Head and shoulders, they are the scariest thing in this list, in my opinion, because of how incredibly order efficient they are internally. Like an Asura, if you killed their entire army, you still might have to fight an Asura who has 3 orders by themselves. And they can almost just hold the retreat state just by themselves if you've gone all the way with their mega killer hacker.
Asura and a net rod will keep the game going. Like by themselves.
And that Asura is going to have 4 orders that are unaffected by basically everything. They've got MSV3, which is fine. I mean,
it's so order efficient though that you can just auto spot, so you can discover shoot anything in the game.
Yep. Or when you end up in that situation where you walk around the corner and they're like, "Oh, do you want to reveal that camo marker? Like, do you want to make an action?" And they're like, maybe I'll just idle." And you're like, "Okay, I discovered you found."
No.
Like, nope, you have to reveal yourself, or I will see you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, it's an efficient move and discover. So people basically always reveal themselves when you come around, unless they're desperately trying to stall for orders. And then they have access to Hacking Device Plus, which means they have all of the cool effects. Mostly, wait, does Hacking Device Plus still let you cyber mask?
It does, and white
Yeah, okay.
noise, although the white noise bites them in the ass because they have MSV.
Right. But cyber mask with a Trinity +2, and the fact that they're a heavy infantry that can be hacked, they can negate their own weakness by just going back into marker state at the end of their turn.
Oh yeah, they can just hide markers, and it's not even a censorable marker state. It's a I turn into grandma marker state.
You have to come find me. I'm prone on a rooftop next to my repeater. Bring your hacker.
Candy
Go
in my
ahead.
pocket.
Trinity
+2,
like. Whip 15. Blam.
Yeah.
There's
they literally the 69.1 literally has every possible hacking program, I think, except for the Evo ones.
And a multi-rifle with a nanopulsar, you can kind of fight anything. Like,
and they're not crap in melee either.
Shock.
Yeah, AP close combat weapon, CC20, 6-2 move, right? So they have a decent first move. They're BS14, whip 15, arm 5, BTS 6, no wound in cap, 2 wounds.
They're also linkable in this faction, which
they sure are with NCOs. It gets spendy fast though.
It does, which is where it's like, yeah, they can do these things, but
when you link her with Parvati though, and Parvati just puts both wounds back on her every time she doctors her on an 18, that's pretty amazing. She's just, sorry, she doctors on a 15, but still, just brings her back to full health, which no one else can do in the game.
Yep. Yeah, there's that. Other than that, I mean, they have kind of the same stuff that everyone else does, involving like they have a pretty fighty link in the Yadu, but they're just like 2 wound infantry with their no wound in cap is their pseudo 2 wound. But other than that, they don't have any fancy. You don't have to worry about a super jump link. You don't have to worry about a climbing plus link. They don't have an equivalent to like a Fide or anything like that, who's going to just be in your deployment killing you. There is sort of a chance with that if Andromeda gets in there, who would be the other thing I'd be scared of. So like the Asura is one, Andromeda is the other, because Andromeda is one of those I am a do everything piece, and I'm kind of.
I think Dart is too. I'll be honest. You bagged on Dart a little bit, but I really like Dart. I think Dart's got a lot of with the grenades and the SMG and the attack post. She covers a lot of bases. She's not a
I think-
specialist though. That's the one thing that Andromeda I agree has over is she's a specialist.
And guard plus D charges.
Oh yeah, it's no joke. And like
Infiltration
you
plus
guard each other,
3
she still has a D equals
is
combat.
much better than, I guess the other one is for deployment. So it's like infiltration plus 3. I'm getting in there on a 12. It's not bad. You could just be in your enemy's deployment, eating them with D charges right off the break. Or you can just go, I'm Captain Classified. I can do all the things. I'm a character. So like half of the ones that require a character, I can do. I have D charges.
Yeah, she's excellent
like-
at what is it? Capture and protect and looting and sabotaging.
Yep. You can just like top a one, have it if you wanted. So that's pretty scary. They don't have a drop shoot that I'm common. Like
No, they can get bashies in the ITS season. That's about it.
Yeah. And then the last one out of like 3 things that I'd watch out for would be the proxies. If only because if you haven't played against them, they're weird.
You don't feel good killing them. Yeah.
And they don't really take any effect from it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're willing to trade a lot more than you might be expecting from an Aleph faction. Because generally Aleph is expensive and they don't want to just trade pieces, but a proxy is a pretty good guy who will also trade pieces.
And they won't drop you into like they don't catch you towards repeat either. So like proxies have this unintended effect where if you're playing like Annihilation or if you're playing a round scoring mission or you're trying to like remove points from a zone, they're all really cheap. So you might be fighting something that's like a big heavy infantry with an AP Spitfire, and you kill it, and you're like, ah, cool, I must have got a lot of points on that. Then you're like, nah, guys, like that guy's like 25 points. And you're like, what? Like, are you kidding me?
Or the Mimetism 6 camo infiltrator sniper who shoots you, and they're like, I'm 28.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, that's a bit
23 points for the AP Spitfire, 25 for the HMG. It's so cheap, it's ridiculous. And the Mark 5 though, you're right. The one with the MSV one or the MSV one, the Mimetism one is only like 25, 28 points too.
Yeah,
crazy cheap.
So
okay, I have a list of scary things
for you. Okay,
those are good. I would agree. Those are all things that are scary. Go for it, Dan.
I think the Guerrilla.
Oh, that is the drop troop. That's right, the Groot attack bot. I never remember him.
So he's a 6'4" movement. He's got parachutist combat jump, mimetism 3, and BS12. He's got armor 0, so he gets plunked, but I mean, you could just pop in the back.
But he is a mim combat jump or parachutist.
Yeah, I think he's super solid. If you're not wary of him coming in on the backside, you can just like walk in just in front of your deployment zone and just start walking. And he's so fast. The 6'4" is great.
I both collected this, had a bunch of these, and on the last 2 occasions I've played against ISS or SSS rather, both times they've jumped a Garuda into me, and every time my brain just forgets that they exist because every time they don't do anything.
Because every time
I'm using them or my opponent, they walk in and you're like, armor 0, shotgun.
Yeah, you just template trade them. Template trade them pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah, you got 20 points, and you're like, I'm gonna die too. Sure, let's go.
That Spitfire though can get a lot of work done at an angle, right? 25 points for that Spitfire if it comes in at the right angle. Having a mimetism outside 16, if you're just hunting like combi rifles and multi rifles and stuff like that, it can be super scary because it's going to show up in a vector you don't like.
I wish they made him 5 points more and gave him no wounding cap.
I wish it was just better. So
I think the Dakinis are pretty scary because they can go into a 5-man link.
Sure can.
They also got the mimetism, and then they'll be up to BS only 14 because they only started at 11. But
oh no, they'll be higher BS than that because you can absolutely give them an Apsaris, and you can rem driver them to BS 13.
Well, there you go.
And you almost always will because you're going to want to rem drive one of the guns, and then they're also remotes, which means you can give them marksmanship.
Right. So yeah, they can be pretty scary, and you can give them the heavy machine gun, combi rifle, grenade launcher, multi sniper. So yeah, if you don't want to be fighting against these, if you put anyone face up, and they got the 6'4" movement as well, so it's just like super annoying.
And multi levels of unconscious, right?
Yeah,
so you can
remote presence. So even if they get killed, you probably want to bring an engineer. You'll probably see an engineer against them. So if you can kill the engineer, otherwise killing them dead is really annoying.
Yeah.
And the last one I was going to say the Marut. I mean,
oh yeah,
You get Strategos, you get Multi-Spectrum Advisor level 2. It's a solid gunfighter. That's just, there's nothing like super special about it, but it's just kind of, when you see it, you're like, oh, I gotta be able to deal with this. Wait, is there smoke?
It is a hard counter to certain things. Yeah,
No
there's no
smoke.
smoke. No.
Oh, less good. But
sorry,
smoke can't counter it either. You can't run.
That's right.
Smoke
Eclipse can. It's vulnerable to Eclipse, but that's it. And it's vulnerable to Hacking Device Plus and Albedo.
That's true.
Because you can white noise it.
And it can't link, so Albedo is real scary to it.
Albedo is real scary too because it can't get 6 cents yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the main scary things that I'd be looking out for if I saw SSS.
Yeah, the Marut has some other things going for it too, which is worth talking about. It's BTS 9, which means that it is very hard to hack, right? Being BTS 9, it also makes it fairly durable against certain types of like templates and like physical attacks. It's also got Gizmo Kit 13, which is pretty standard for an Arm 8 tag, a size 7, but worth noting you can shoot Gizmo Kits into it to heal it, which can be nice. And it's trained total, which means sometimes it just gets super jump in this edition. And it's got a heavy flamer and a nanopulsar. So you get the heavy flamer for when you fight those like regular units, and when the bears show up, you have a nanopulsar.
Yeah, but is that enough? Is that something that you're like?
Is it 95 points or 99 points?
Yeah, like is that the like? Okay, I've never really played against ISS. What should I watch out for? It's like they have a tag. He's pretty good.
It's a tag that can offset all of your mim and camouflage and stuff. That's a big deal. Yeah, MSV tag. MSV. They're the only MSV tag that I know of. Unless you booty roll one. Can you booty roll one on the Trip Hammer?
I believe so.
Can you get MSV one?
Yeah, you can. You can
booty roll on the Trip Hammer. There you go.
Because I got MSV one on one of my diggers the other day.
Did you really? That's so funny.
Yeah.
There you go. The only other tag thing that has MSV is the one that's the cheapest, shotgunniest jalopy tag.
Yeah.
But that is a legit thing because suppressing Marut is real hard to deal with by the usual counters of mimetism and smoke. So if you are a smoke mimetism faction and you're playing against OSS, you're, I think, less likely to see the Marut in this faction. You're more likely to see the Asura, who's the same problem basically, right, as a Marut for like 30 less points.
And linkable and small.
And a hacker and a bunch of other things. but yes. So I'm gonna kind of encapsulate what you guys said. This faction has access to tons of MSV. They are tougher than you think they're going to be because there is so much remote presence with remotes being around. Meaning that if you do that second wound, they go unconscious instead of dead because they're usually shock immune. And if they're remote presence, then they're not going to go all the way to dead. You need to understand mechanically a lot of what you're fighting. Dakinis are kind of like Gulams in that they're really cheap, but they offset that by being very augmentable, right? Being able to mix in Devas, who also can have MSV. You can have a Deva engineer, I believe. No, it's a sensor, sorry. But you have access to tons of engineers, and they count as number 2. So they're also, if that Daikini link loses a guy, very often the Deva, who you usually want to have with a either hacking device or a like sensor, sometimes with the MSV2, will drop to the fire team bonus, and then you can bring your guy back and not have to spend a command token to have them rejoin the link, which is really nice. There's a bunch of like efficiency in there that you won't really be used to until you play against this faction. They also have something you didn't call it, which is the Rudris Gunbot.
That was actually the one I was going to do, and I said to Marut because I was like, "Wait, what was the other one?"
It's the Rudris. Yeah, the Rudris is
plus.
He's pretty rude. He also is linkable. This was the 1K1 rifle, I believe, that's in this
faction.
But it's attached to a crazy remote profile, Arm 4 BTS6 2 structure. You can get 2 of these things at BS12. They can be rem driven by the Epsaris up to 13 if you want. They can also be marksmanshipped, and they're a little bit like what we talked about with 012, where because they have climbing plus, they can plunging fire. They're repeaters, and they can get all over the place. They dodge +1 inch, which is interesting as well, because they're not typically known for being dodgy. And they have mind dispensers, so they can do a baby version of the mind dispenser trick where they shoot mines out into the corner and then come around the corner with that K1 marksman rifle and start plugging away. They are a very interesting platform for 38 points, and you can have 2 of them. I think they're kind of a sleeper, and as people get more used to this like mind dispenser shooting corner trick, and you have access to cheap baggage bots, I think the Rudris is going to be something that you see more and more of, because the Climb Plus makes it very versatile. And as we all know, corner shooting can be quite good. So for the price of a third of a Maggie or half of a Maggie, you get, you can have, or 1 Maggie, you can have 2 of these guys who can do all of Maggie's tricks for the most part, except for bringing the baggage with them.
I think the Vostok has caused them to fall off my radar.
The mid -6 Vostok with its
also climbing plus,
sweet climbing plus,
all
and
of the other
Mark
things,
12.
but
Yeah.
Mim 6.
no mind dispenser though. Can't do that corner shooting or trick, right? But the Vostok is great.
Definitely.
It's also more points. It's 45 points for a Vostok.
Yeah.
He is great though.
Mim 6.
I don't think he's not as tough though. I don't think he's on armor 4. Is he armor 4 as well? Yeah,
he's armor 3, but he has Mim 6.
That's what I thought. Yeah, he's still BTS 6 though.
Yeah, and then he still has 2
very
wounds.
good. Yeah, still 2 wounds. Well, they're the same platform basically.
Yeah,
these guys are the heavy remote.
But he's immune to AP. I don't know.
He is immune to AP, which is huge. Yeah,
worth like
yeah
a call out, but it's something. But anyway, yeah,
different faction, but
yeah.
Yes. So watch out for the remotes. Watch out for the augmentable remotes, because the remotes can all of a sudden have marksmanship. So you can't count on your mods, and the prevalence of visors and also anti-visor tech like Hacking Device Plus in this faction can cause problems for people that rely on smoke and or visors to get work done. I would say all the same things about the hitting characters like Andromeda and Dart. I will call it Parvati again. She's not always in this faction. She's going to show up, I think, more in other Aleph factions, but her ability to bring people back online is like unparalleled, and she's super mobile, so she can get places to do objectives and stuff as well. So don't consider yourself safe, because her super jump and the Rudris' Climbing Plus can mean that models end up places you don't expect. Let's talk about taking them down. What is the big takedown strategy for an army full of remotes and visors? Want to start, Dan?
I think like your basic throwaway drop troops, if you can get rid of their engineer. Again, Parvati is a little bit harder to get rid of because he's got 2 structure. But if you can get rid of the engineer, then when things go down, then you're not as worried. It's the durability of the faction goes down a lot.
This faction hates template traders. They are relying on that mim, right, and range and picking their fights. There are a lot of armor 0 on those remotes, so they hate cheap template traders like chain rifles, dogs. I think you're absolutely right. I think anybody with a direct template that can sort of storm the beaches. The Daikinis hate those. All their characters like Dart and Andromeda hate those. They're relatively good at dodging, but not great. I think anybody who's played against this army knows that they don't get out of the way fast, and they typically have things like net rods so that you can just template on the way by. They'll just die.
Yeah, they kind of want to fight you at range. So.
They do.
They're also
for sure.
all very expensive. So if you're trading 20-ish point models, you're probably trading up. I did want to call out one other thing, and I haven't brought it up before, but it stands out in this faction. The models in this faction, like the actual models, do not represent what you think they are.
They don't look like what you think they're going to be.
That's a good point. Asura,
yeah.
It is not what you think it is. You see like the 90-pound female model with a rifle, and it's like, oh, and she's a hacker. Okay, cool. That's like insert the 500 versions of that you've seen before. And then you go to fight her, and it's like, wait,
she's Kusanagi. Yeah, she's chimp strong,
still alive,
and can like
and
jump.
she's still killing people.
Yeah.
And it's like, and like there's a couple of them in here that are like that. Even the Yadu, who are just like a bunch of people wearing jackets, and you're like, veteran, shock immune, no wounding cab, BS13 in a big link,
because they're post-humans. Yeah, they're all replicants basically from Blade Runner, right? So they're super strong, super tough, really hard to kill.
Yeah, so it's a small thing, especially, but if you haven't played against them and you're unsure of what you're looking at, just remember that like they aren't going to look like the hitters, with the exception of the Marut, who's obviously a giant tag. The rest of them are going to look like the remotes that you're familiar with, because even the Rudris, who's this like terrifying gunbot, has like a little baby machine gun on the front of him, and otherwise he just looks like the regular kind
looks like a baggage bot. Yeah,
baggage bots that you're used to. and they'll say like, oh yeah, he's got a K1 rifle, and it's like, ooh, that's pretty scary. And then all of a sudden he's like off to the races as he runs over the walls and marksmanships you down. But
So joke. Yeah, for sure.
How do you deal with these guys cheap models that can trade because they can't trade that well? And
Mm-hmm.
then all your other tools that you use for fighting, do they have a link? One guy might have MSV, but
fast melee. Yeah, fast melee like bikes and stuff, because these guys do not like any kind of melee engagement. There's no dedicated melee units at all, except for the guard on Andromeda.
Yeah, Andromeda's your best melee person. She's twice as much as the regular kind of melee that the other sides get, because they gave her a whole bunch of extra rules, which is kind of the staple of this faction. The Yadu are pretty solid, but then they cost an extra 5 points because they gave them every weapon that you could think of. It's like, that's cool, but just trade, peace trade.
If you have a hacking device plus as well, and if you have access to a albedo unit, they're both super effective against all the MSV pieces like the tag and the Asura.
I think hacking goes both ways. Be careful if you bring a hacker as well. The Asura.
I'm just talking about for white noise.
No, I get that, but I'm saying like this is a faction filled with remotes and repeaters, and the Asura is one of the scariest hackers in the game.
On the active turn, reactive, she's usually hiding.
Reactive, she can either hide or she can fight, and she's as good as most hackers. Like even in reactive, because she's going to Trinity, right? And
sure.
She's hitting you on 18s. Yeah, it's only one dice, maybe 15s because it's through the firewall.
I'm just saying, all hackers reactively, if you're gonna like coordinate against them or what, like you can all the usual things that cheap hackers can do. You know what I mean? Like we talked about with the O12 thing. Watch out for like 3 cheap hackers all doing different programs. She has the same problem against that everybody else does. It's all I was trying to say.
I get it. I'm trying to say that if you're a kind of faction and you really like using your hackers, these guys might just kill them all. Like she might just open up and like run a remote next to you, and then you're gonna go, oh, whip 18. I guess I just die then.
Mm-hmm. Even on the EM though, EM's nasty. But even on the active turn, if you're trying to hack them, because they have 3 wounds effectively, it's kind of like you got to roll a lot of dice. And if roll goes you're the wrong way, and then you're probably dead.
That was literally what happened in my last game with them. Is the Bereed, who's the little champion hackers, the Asura just killed both of them in ARO. Trinity for Trinity. Like they did a bunch of wounds to her, but it doesn't matter because she can take the wounds, and then she just needs to win 1 roll, and you get hit by a damage 18 Trinity and you go down.
Yeah, you probably die. you probably don't live through that. Definitely. I was just gonna say that EM is an incredible weapon against this faction because there's so many remotes.
Yeah.
Right. So EM templates, EM mines, EM grenades, Marats, all of those can be super scary. Jammers are also really scary because the Asura doesn't want to get jammed. That ends her whole trip real fast. And she can't hurt it with the Trinity, right? So if she's at a line of fire, a jammer will really mess her up. It'll shut down her hacking device, which removes a bunch of access to stuff, and it kills all the lieutenant orders. So it's a big deal to get jammed. So those 3 things are my, like, if you have access to these in your faction, this faction has a ton of like targets of opportunity for those specific types of equipment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, let's move on to the next faction, the Steel Phalanx, the sexiest of Aleph factions, and one of the like. Remember we used to talk about Johnny, Timmy, Spike, the Magic the Gathering player types, the 3-player archetypes. This is the most, I would say, Timmy faction maybe in this game. It's so Timmy. It's all big muscles. It's all show muscles, right? They don't do leg day. They just do all their show muscles in this one. Let's have Owen go first because you've been playing this faction recently. So what do you think people need to look out for when they're playing against this faction?
Steel Phalanx is like my perspective is Steel Phalanx single-handedly changed the perspective of Infinity. Steel Phalanx is riddled with really order efficient mega killers. Like there's like 8 in this faction. There might be more.
Yeah.
Who are individuals who will just by themselves dismantle your whole army if left to their own devices. You won't usually see all of them together, but there's probably going to be 2 or 3 of them in every list you play against.
There'll be a guy and a backup guy for sure.
And all of them tend to lean on mimetism of some degree.
Except for my
they
favorite
all have
one.
links.
The cheapest one.
Yeah, fair. but they all can do it, and like you just need to prepare yourself that you're going to get hit by a group of guys who are like, I don't even like, is Eudoros the scariest one? Kinda. Is Achilles? Kinda. Hector? Kinda.
It's all in their
Ajax?
weight class,
Kinda.
right?
Like,
I would say there's weight classes of these guys, right? I would put Achilles, Agamemnon, and Hector all in a weight class, right? Those three are in that like 70 to like maybe a 75 to 65 point range, and they
sure.
all can do roughly the same thing.
Yeah. I think the Agamemnon actually falls behind a little bit because the others can also all link in
Sure.
to the degree that they get 6 cents as needed, which puts them above like the normal counters, like because they're this faction is somewhat limited with MSV with one exception. There, I guess it's two, but there's really one, which is another superhero model, but Atalanta is on that list. That's so there's like the 69 to 75 bracket,
Sure.
and you've got the 40 to 60 bracket,
Mhm.
which has Hippolyta, Eudoros, Atalanta,
Ajax.
Ajax. Like, how many points is
Phoenix.
Phoenix? Yeah, that's the one. I'm
35. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have one bracket down from there where you end up with Pandora, Andromeda, and then a few of the like sergeants who they're very specialized. They're not the ones who are going to just kill you, but like Atalanta can just win a game.
Achamon's pretty great. Achamon's pretty great for his weight class. So is Thrasymedes.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're usually better than their equivalents on the other side, but they're not like this guy's going to solo your army.
Right? No.
Whereas
But they're better than like
that,
another 28 point model. Yeah.
Everybody in that 40 plus bracket, like 40 to the 60s, these are guys that like they could just kill every model you have. Like it's
so this is like the hard opposite of OSSS, right? Where OSSS is keeping you at range and using like technical stuff. These guys are in your grill. Like there are some range fighters, obviously. Like there's some premier ones like Atalanta, Phoenix. But the vast majority of these guys are really comfortable inside that 24 to actually kicking your teeth in bracket.
24 to melee.
Yeah, 24 to exploding close combat weapon.
Yeah. Like how many exploding close combat weapons are in this faction?
4? More than you'd think.
There's a
and the ones that aren't exploding are usually DA and on someone who's like Fizz 25.
5 models have explosive close combat weapons in this faction.
Yeah.
2 of them are Achilles. But
then Hector's one, and then
Ajax
is one, and Hippolyta's one. That's right.
Yeah. And in it is not uncommon because I have done it where you can bring Hector, Ajax, and Hippolyta all in one list, and they're all in links, and they're going to have like 12 orders because Hector's there, and each Harris group of them is individually enough to take down most other stuff.
I like that you can build a literal Justice League.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be Batman? Because like you could have Achilles be Superman, and then Hector could be maybe Hector's Batman, and then obviously Hippolyta's Wonder Woman, and you could have the Trinity. You could just do the Justice League.
Yeah,
it'd be amazing.
I think you could do Achilles as either Batman, like Hector or Achilles. Just pick one.
Hector just feels more Batman to me. You know what I mean? Because he's not like he's good, but he's not quite that good. He's got all the technical stuff. He's got like the plasma rifle and stuff like that. I want to do that now. I want you to.
My brain looks at it as Hector's like big guy with chest out, and Achilles like fast Achilles, not Mark II Achilles. Is like I'm like a sneaky man, and I'm on my own because I'm Batman, and I don't link with those guys.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like Achilles, because Achilles' stats are just like Superman stats. I feel like he's Superman.
Yeah, so like I okay, first warning then, the thing you have to be afraid of is they have a whole list of guys who all have mimetism 6, and each of them can join basically anyone else in links, and they can run across the board and beat you up. The other 2 things in my perspective that you have to watch out for are Atalanta. She is the best sniper.
Hidden Atalanta, which is
I think Total Reaction is the scariest. But
no. I was gonna say the other Atalantas are the 2 hidden missile launcher whatchamacallits. Yeah.
But Atalanta can do it by herself. I don't know. I'm just saying, as a player, when the first time you play against Atalanta, you'll find that like, oh, just none of my stuff works.
Yeah, you don't forget Atalanta very quickly.
Yeah,
no, she leaves a mark. You're gonna feel a little pinch.
if you get the optimal situation where you have a white noise town and you shoot Atalanta and you're in a link team and you're like, okay, I'm BS 13 because I'm an average link guy. I'm BS 16 and I'm in good range to 19. She's going to be in cover, so I'll hit her on 16s, and I'm minus 6 for the no line of fire and 3 for my cover. And then I have mimetism, but she counters that. And you shoot her, she's going to go, oh yeah, -6. Well, I ignore cover. So I'm still hitting you on 12s on 2 shots. Like, the worst situation for her puts her on the level of like an average guy.
Yeah. I know, it's horrifying.
Like, it's crazy.
The best situation is you're behind her and you shoot a template. That's literally the best situation for you.
Yeah.
Or in front of her and shoot a template. Doesn't matter. You shoot a template.
Yeah. Get close enough to be able to hit her with the template with an infiltrator. But more of the story is you don't have that, or it doesn't work out, or she just doesn't die because she dodges or makes the armor save. One of the 5 million Mim 6 murder machines that are nearby her are going to prevent you from doing that more than once, usually. And then the last one, I think, is Penthelia, who is in the, yeah, she's in the 30 bracket and normally isn't one that can just go kill everyone, but she's on a motorcycle and is just as fighty as all of the other guys who link, but just does it alone. And
she's a button pusher extraordinaire. 8-6 specialist, impetuous motorcycle, CC attack -6, which means she's immune to natural born warrior with her CC 23.
Yes, and she also has bioimmunity.
Sure does. So she's always armor 3, and she's got a monofilament close combat weapon.
Yeah, and yeah, immune to natural born warrior. And
that's my first affinity model.
Yeah, she'll also murder a tag.
She murders pretty much anybody. There's very few guys that are going to face that down and not just get hit.
She really explodes tags though, right? Because she has smoke to get there. She's crazy fast. She can dodge +2 inches to get to where she wants to be, and then she just goes into melee with it, and it fights her back at -6.
I guess the other side of the coin, this faction, unlike SSS, is also littered in smoke of all types. Smoke, eclipse, they got it.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is Penny also imposes that -6 when she makes a CC attack to the tag's dodge. So the tag try to dodge away, it's dodging on 5s usually, which means that she's just going to obliterate it. Like, it has to CC her back to get a better chance, and then it's still stuck in melee. I'm just saying she's a really good. If you have a tag and you see that bike across from you, just deploy somewhere else. Like, it's going. She's going to be a problem.
I would go so far as to say I wouldn't bring a tag against
this faction. Period.
Just full up. Like, if you want advice on what not to bring, don't bring a tag. Like, your tag's probably
spread your value out, I think is the advice I would, a version of what you're saying is. Yeah
because like,
if you give these guys a hard target, they're very good at killing hard targets.
But anyway, it's not really a 3 things to look out for. It's more like there are a dozen characters in here that are going to be machines that are going to be fed all of their orders, and they're going to keep killing until you stop them. And then there's 2 kind of standout solo models, being Atalanta and Penny, who on both sides of the table, one of them is going to shoot you from his deployment.
Achilles is going to be the other one that always by itself.
True. That's true.
Your Achilles killed my entire army when I played with my 12, if you remember correctly.
Except for your tag. There was one boy who did that, and there was Atalanta.
That's true. That's true.
Atalanta just shot.
The tag got killed by Atalanta. That's right. She got 1 kill, which was my tag, in 1 order against my hypermagnetic cannon, and that went great.
Walk around the corner with his Zeta, shoot Atalanta. Atalanta shoots back on 18s, rolls a 17 and a 16, and the tag dies.
The tag just dies, just instantly.
Or it's DA,
It's DA. Shocking. You take 4 damage, 15 shots, and he just didn't make his saves.
And I hadn't painted my engineer yet. It was bad.
Yep. And then Achilles got 10 more orders, and there were no models left on the other side of the board.
Killed everything I had.
And I did it to Dan with Hippolyta. Like,
did you really?
Like, it happens. Yeah.
All right. So what are you, Dan? What do you think? I was playing Druze. Like, that's an excuse. I was playing down. I was playing Druze.
No, I would have died either way. I went second, and I didn't get to go first.
That's what second is.
Traditionally speaking, in most cases, it's second.
Traditionally, unless you cheat, which I don't want to do. I think Pandora is is a hidden thing that you gotta like watch out for, because
Why is that?
she can push all the buttons, and she's very survivable with her dodge -6. So if she's in cover and you're attacking her, then she can dodge, and then you get -6 to your roll. And if she's in cover, it's a -9. And so it's like, yeah. And then during her turn, she's a hacker, and she's got the what's that rule? I should bring it up. The zero pain.
Resisting
So she can.
hacking?
It's just like, yeah, you get 2 dice in ARO against hacking with a +3, I think. Anyways, it's just a resistant model that's not easy to kill, that's going to push buttons. And so it's basically a specialist that is harder to kill than you think. And
That's
she's
fair.
got a med kit that she can shoot out at people.
She does.
Even
She's a
though-
weird profile, yeah.
So like if she's in a link, then she could just like bring people back up. And that's what happened in my first game against Atalanta. My Zeta almost died, killing Atalanta. She went down. And then Pandora's like, medkits, boom. And then I had to kill her again. It was so annoying.
A lot of work.
His 11 roll, and it was like, ah. And so it just, yeah, everyone's kind of a superhero, and it's annoying. But if you can make a few good trades, then you're going to be up on them.
Sweet. Well, my overall things you need to know about Steel Phalanx. You covered a lot of them, but there's a few more call-outs I want to make. They have liberal access to Eclipse grenades. And that is something worth knowing. Even your visors are not going to work against the Myrmidon officer, Hippolyta, as I think Owen aptly demonstrated against Dan when she soloed his army. Makan and Eudoros all have access to unblockable smoke, and almost, I'd say, like the bulk of the rest of the army has access to some form of smoke. So the Myrmidon officer, Phoenix, and Pensathleia all have smoke grenades too. So they are a faction that combines visors with smoke. They have a couple MSV2 visors. They can take them on, of course, Atalanta, but then you also get them on the what are they called? The Gamma Marksmans, who are also hidden deployment. Means that you will very often have smoke opportunities and then have something appear from a hidden vector potentially, because all of them have access to hidden deployment and shoot your smoke guys. So it's something to be mindful of, especially considering that the Gamma Marksman famously can have a missile launcher. So an MSV2 missile launcher with surprise attack and hidden deployment, your link team can just be suddenly obliterated out of hidden deployment, and you don't want that. You might move into a courtyard thinking you're totally safe because nothing can see you, and then on your next movement, as everyone's all clustered around, they just drop a missile into the middle of that faction or that unit, which can be very disheartening. So lots of access to smoke and eclipse smoke, lots of access to hidden deploy MSV2 to counteract smoke as well, can be something that's well worth paying attention to. As Owen already said, lots of very high point value warband troops that can fight you in melee like crazy and can get there via smoke or via other model smokes too. And then the last thing that people don't tend to think of, but I think is worth mentioning, is they have a ton of access to core fire teams. They can have unlimited core fire teams capped at 4, but the important thing about that is you can get 6th Sense. And that means that all these models without 6th Sense cannot be surprise attacked typically if they're in a fire team. So while there are these solo hero models, a lot of the like mid-range ones, especially guys like Phoenix, and other models like Ajax, will be usually hanging out with a bunch of cheapos, and those cheapos will give them that sweet 6th Sense. And if they're in a pure fire team because they're all Myrmidons, they'll also get +1 to their ballistic skill. So those, I think, are key sort of like call outs. Very often, even if a model doesn't have 6th Sense, it's got access to it too, and they can get to vectors that you won't expect and come at you from vectors that you won't expect as well. So let's talk about taking them down. Owen, you go first.
Try and go first. If that fails, then you're going to want some speed bumps. Like, be ready to lose models, because on the active turn, they're going to pick their battles, and they're going to pick all the battles that they're best at, and you will lose models. Like, you might get crazy lucky. It's happened. Your TRHMG is just like trick, crit, and you end up in a good position. But so often these guys are going to come at you and you're just going to get run over by a guy, and the best thing you can do is drain their orders. Camo infiltrators, ideally with templates, they're great. Or just cheapo guys who can have templates in the midfield, because a lot of these enemy hitter pieces are depending on mimetism. So if you had, I don't know, infiltrating heavy flamethrower grunt, he might get a lot of work done.
Sure,
he might die.
Might
Sometimes
kill Batman.
he just kills Achilles right off the top.
Well, it was Hector. It was Hector. I just painted Hector, and you killed him immediately, and I was so sad because I just painted him.
Ash's first order: walk up on random grunt on rooftop.
No, three consecutive power saves.
Yeah, grunt kills him. Flamethrower.
So sad.
Grunt also lived.
He lived, ran away, and continued to ruin my day. It was an absolute nightmare of a game.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. Other than that, if you have your own MSV, or obviously Albedo MSV would be even better, because then they can't get you with Atalanta. So if you have a Blackfriar
or Eclipse,
well, the Eclipse, I don't like that because they're coming for you still. Like that kind of helps them. But if you have an Albedo model that you can place down when Atalanta gets placed down, then especially most of the Albedo, not most, but some Albedo guys are MSV Albedo, like the Guilo and the Blackfriar. They're kind of a big problem for Steel Phalanx because Atalanta is sort of their long range solution other than Phoenix. So if they have Phoenix, he can fight you, but now you're just fighting like a normal guy, potentially. I mean, normal MSV or MIM 6, BS13, linkable rocket, no wounding cap, blah, blah, blah. But normal as far as this faction is concerned. Yeah, that'd be my two things. If you got Albedo, just bring that. If you've got infiltrating camo or infiltrating template weapons, bring those two, and you'll slow them down. And then in the reactive turn, you just take them apart with any kind of either templates or MSV models that you have.
Cheap direct template warbands get a lot of value against these guys because they are expensive. Like leading into that one wound, min -6, fat guys like Myrmidons or even Thorakides, you'll tend to trade up almost all the time. They're the cheapest Myrmidon, 16 points, right? So if a Galwegian or even just like a Gaki, you know what I mean, with a chain rifle kills one of them, you've more than tripled your points back basically in that trade. So that's well worth doing.
Yep.
Berserk is really good too against them. Anything they can't block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what about you, Dan?
Because it's tricky because they have a lot of min -6, so you don't want to fight them at range. But then they have a lot of like crazy high close combat skills as well. And so you don't want to really close too close either. And so it's kind of, you really got to just review what each model can do and
be aware of Atalanta.
They fall in different classes for sure, but they go from the ultralight like net rods to like lightly armored, but very high like mod stacks through like mimetism and stuff like that, or hidden deployment. So it's weird. There's no like, you're right, there's no like median, you know what I mean, for these guys. It's all like big swings, either very low or very high.
And then, just make sure there's no crazy sniper nest on the opponent's side of the board, or any part of the board. You're like, hey, look, a sniper can see the whole thing. We're like, yeah, but it's okay. We're like, no, actually, we should call a judge over it. This is silly.
This is not what I was thinking. All right, well, really anything else?
Yeah.
No. One thing that I can't
my last one would be is I think that this is, I've said it a few times when we've talked about this. I think this faction has single-handedly given Infinity a weird reputation.
They definitely are not new player fun if you play against them.
One of the things that you interact with a lot, and I personally have heard this unknown amount of times, isn't that a game where you just give all your orders to one guy and he kills everyone? And it's like, well, no.
They're the original Rambo army for sure.
Except for this army, which does that. And they do it very well, and that is their gimmick. And it's a good gimmick because it works most of the time. Some of the time.
50% of the time it works all the time. I will say that there is a few things here that I think are slight Achilles heels, literally. Again, isolation affects these guys quite a bit, especially the heavy infantry. Anybody who's hackable, right? So they can get shut down with jammers. They can get shut down with isolates. They don't have a ton of killer hacker presence. They have a few killer hacker like mods, like Scylla, for instance. She has like an Evo upgrade trinity and then a hacking device upgrade trinity. There's only, I think, 2 killer hackers in the whole list. There's a Ectremoy, which I can't believe you didn't mention, Owen, because you love the Ectremoy. The drop troops, who are incredible. They are a fantastic drop troop. You really need to watch out for because just like the sort of theme of like superheroes, the Ectremoy are like superhero drop troops. They are martial arts 3, courage, frenzy, parachutist, combat jump, stealth, super jump, dodge +1 inch. They've got chain rifles everywhere, and there's a hacker killer hacker device too, with like DA close combat weapons. They can be very scary. But it does mean that you don't have a ton of active killer hacker presence, which means that a hacking net can actually be very effective against these guys. Same with things that isolate, like
didn't
EM
all
weapons.
have stealth.
Well, I mean, a lot of us, but then they're not fighting if they don't have stealth, right? And if you have sixth sense hackers, right? If you have access to linkable hackers, linking your hackers to get that sixth sense can be a huge deal against these guys too, which was something I was going to mention.
Fair enough.
It is something worth taking against these guys. We said earlier, cheap piece traders, cheap melee traders like Gakis and Predas and Galwegians, and of course Taiga Beasts are all great against these guys, because if you can trade a 4 to 6 to a 8-point model for a 16-point Myrmidon, you've done well. And then as soon as you start breaking up those fire teams and hunting the cheap orders, those superheroes start to go down. So one of their weaknesses is obviously going for their order pool. That means using those models to slip through and hunt things like net rods, Thorkides, and cheaper Myrmidons. And that means that you've got less threat from these big superhero models that can go out and fight. All seem like viable options. All right, well, this is the final then, as we smush these two together with a couple new profiles into core Aleph. This is Aleph as a hyperpower faction, and you have access to all these profiles now all of a sudden, except for Pandora. She is decidedly absent from this list, but I think everything else we talked about so far, plus a few extra things, are available pushed together. Obviously, things you don't have to worry about are fire teams, although you do get duos. You can duo the Asura still with things like bounty hunters, Yadus. So you can still use, if you put her with a Yadu, she can still use her NC orders and stuff as well. But now the big key thing is we're combining the up close and personal of the steel phalanx with the ranged shenanigans and like techno know-whats of the OSSS. So let's take it away with Dan this time. What do you think the things to look out for with vanilla Aleph are?
Dude, I have no idea. There's just so much, right? It's just like with any
well, I think that's a good answer.
faction, right?
They do literally, yeah, but these guys literally do everything because they have access to tech, smoke, melee, war bands, like everything. You are spoiled for choice against vanilla Aleph, and you might see anything across the table.
Yeah. I was like,
I do think there's a standout though.
Sure, go for it.
It is the introduction of the MSV 2 and 3 models, which is to say the Marut and the Asura with smoke. Because they didn't have it before, but they have it now.
And you sure do now.
And now you have 5 million little guys who are feeding orders into them. And so the superheroes in SSS who couldn't quite go as far as Steel Phalanx, and Steel Phalanx for the opposite problem because they didn't have the ranged kind of power. Yeah. Now you've taken the best ranged weapons out of SSS and then given them the cover that the smoke from the Steel Phalanx provide.
You're much more likely to see a Marut in this list.
Yeah, almost guaranteed in my opinion. Like
a Marut or Achilles. It's one or the other. You're basically trading one. I'd have 2 lists, one with a Marut and one with Achilles in it.
Yeah, probably. Does your faction have camo? I'm playing the Marut.
Yeah.
No, here comes Achilles.
Well, the Marut with Penny, who will just go put smoke grenades wherever the Marut wants to shoot.
16-point Myrmidon, just chill it. He throws
sure.
smokes on 16s.
Put him on the Marut as well if you
dirt
want.
cheap.
Yeah, sure.
And he could stand right in front of the Marut and just be like, "Oh, you're attacking the Marut who's suppressing? I smoke dodge. You're welcome, Marut. I died for this." That's my perspective of vanilla Aleph. That's the thing.
You're also gonna have to look out for, they've added in all the mercs, right? So you get beast hunters all of a sudden. You're gonna have access to Libertos. You're gonna have access to all those cheap little like cheap and cheerful peace traders you didn't have before. So cheap templates like the EM mines from the various like infiltrators. You have access to things like combining, like you said, like viral, like Ada Swanson and Dart to hunt bears and things that are total immunity with vulnerable viral. I think you don't get the. I think you actually don't get the Rudris in this though, if I remember correctly.
I don't believe so.
I think the Rudris is the other thing it's missing.
Oh no,
it's
he's here.
Oh, is he here?
You
Okay,
only
yeah.
get one.
Yeah, it's just Pandora then.
I don't know
That's
how
fine.
I forgot this in SSS, but it comes up here. Watch out for Arjunas. In a faction that doesn't have much to trade, having sync bots with Emerats is really scary. Because an Emerat is a kill anyone weapon with the ability to isolate and immobilize potentially. And for 4 points, he'll go. He'll just send it. Like,
it's real good.
I walk around the corner. Oh no.
Eat Arjunas.
Yeah, the little Arjunas. They're very fast. They're specialists, and they're one of the few disposable models. Like the faction is kind of hurting for.
Well, and they can carry doubles too. Like the Arjuna can have a double cran bot if it wants as well.
Yeah,
like you can have
well,
like a
saying, right?
It's like 30 points, something like that. 36 points for a double cran bot, or 34 points for the boarding shotgun one.
Yeah, 34 to 38 or 39 rather, depending on what weapon the Arjuna itself is carrying. I think 36 is the way to go. Shock marksman rifle. You're good up to 24, and then you have your two kind of close combat guys. But yeah, he's the very quiet, like arm 3 specialist mimetism, sneaking up on you, and then next thing you know, a Karambot walks through all of your mines or your what are they called? The bears, drop bears.
Your little plus, because it's +3 to dodge too, which is
all
fun.
your perimeters, your mad traps.
Yeah,
and then even
Great
if he doesn't make it, it's like, he's 4 points.
So it's laying cyber mines.
Yep. Anyway, just wanted to call that guy.
So if you can do everything right, if you can combine all of that stuff together, like Vanilla Aleph can, how do you deal with them? Because what are you getting here? Vanilla Aleph is interesting because they have there are some things they don't have. They don't have a lot of access to like cheap units. So if you compare Aleph and Combined Army as like two sides of the same coin, they kind of both have these big power units. They also have like a blend of like things like net rods and cheaper sort of like more disposable pieces. These guys don't go as far into disposable as Combined Army necessarily does. They have more elites than disposables. How do you take these guys down?
I mean, it's the same issue with Vanilla Hakislam had. Older faction has access to basically all the tools. Just be aware of those tools. Like, watch out for a horrendously high BS smoke marksmanship combo. Do you have a link that can outdo it? Hacking is kind of your friend. They're not the strongest hacking course unless they have a Asura, in which case you might just die. But
with no access to Sixth Sense. So if you have access to like surprise attack hackers, you can mod stack them down.
I think the Asura just wins against most hackers. I think there's very few in the game that can actually face up an Asura, either side, active or reactive. Whip 18 is huge.
Sure.
And the fact that she has multiple wounds means it's going to take a while to get through it, and is still BTS 6 if all else fails.
Yeah, if you just isolate her though, she's done. Right? It's not about killing her. You might just try and isolate her instead.
So you're gonna go after her with your 2 dice AP hack.
If someone's like active, I'm saying if someone is active turn oblivioning her,
I know
that's a camo. If you have access to like a camo surprise attack model, it's a decent option, right? She'll try and trend you back. You'll try and isolate, and then if you get it, then you don't have to worry about all those wounds because you've just gotten it through, and she's isolated her things off. Like her hacking device is turned off, and she can't use a lieutenant, or if she's a lieutenant. Actually, you can't even take the lieutenant one in this, I don't think.
You can bring lieutenants, but not lieutenant hacker.
That's right. You don't get the one with the hacking device, so it's not even that big deal.
No, she's just there if you're like, oh, my buddy plays.
I don't think you see the Asura in vanilla as much. I think you see Achilles, and I think you see the Marut.
Yeah. I could see having this in both of them. or it's actually, if I didn't have it I would have it in the Achilles list almost certainly.
And the Asura and Achilles? Whoa, for real?
The Asura Trinity. Yeah.
Huh.
She's the plan B, right? Like Achilles walks up and the grunt just kills him. And you're like, all right, I see how this game's gonna go. Well, how about this?
Your plan B isn't Parvati? Just putting Achilles back together again?
No,
Oh, there is no Parvati.
you don't get Parvati.
No, you do. You do. She's there.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm pretty sure you get Parvati.
Yeah, for sure you can.
But between diggers and like the net rods, because they get more net rods, don't they?
I believe they have access to 3 net rods in this.
Yeah, instead of the 2 that the other guys get, if I recall. Oh wait, are net rods?
Yeah, AVA 3.
Yeah. So between net rods, diggers, and pick your poison of the cheap bots, either Dakinis or Aleph or Lamed or Probots, like you're gonna have a bunch of orders to fill these groups up, and having an Asura and Achilles, you kind of cover your bases. But it means if you're on the other side of that and you have to fight them, odds are they're going to have a big hitting piece that's got mimetism and a big hitting piece that's got MSV.
I will say these guys hate fighting bears, dogs, and McMurrow. I think fast and get and template their like cheap orders to hamstring their order pool is not something that Vanilla Elf's a fan of.
And they took away Pandora, who is the anti-dog.
She is the anti-dog. You still get Sforza? No, you don't get Sforza in this. You get Sforza and OSSS. OSSS has the best dog defense, which is the viral rifles. Sforza with an X-Visor just suppressing on turn 1. He will take care of the dogs for you and the bears. There's not, I guess you get Dart with a viral turbo, and that's about it.
Yeah, Pandora linked with her plus burst viral pistols is pretty good.
Like, yeah, but you gotta come see her. You know what I mean? Like, and then if you're standing up to face the bears, then I'm sure something else will stand up and kill her first.
Sure. I guess this is a different faction because Pandora, but
yeah, and
Pandora's big sister.
And what I'm saying is use those fast movers to go hunt the net rods, hunt the Myrmidons, hunt whatever the order pool is. Don't waste them on the big guys. Just try and hamstring the big guys and get their order pool like tacked down so they can't move as far and do as much stuff.
Right. But in this vanilla list, in this main Aleph list, they have so many more of those little guys because there's so many types of them now between different remotes. And again, little diggers, like, come at me, dog. I'll fight you. I'll fight you any day of the week.
Assassination pieces are also a big deal on here. If you can get a Shinobu into a Marut, or if you can get a McMurrow onto a Marut to go fight it in melee, they're not super lost lieutenant resistant. So things like Fides or Speculo killers, or fast moving dodge into berserk range like McMurrow models, they can be really good at taking those big hard hitting pieces or lieutenants. Obviously, lieutenants are like Strategos lieutenants. And this faction's not great.
The Myrmidon chain of command Eclipse Grenade.
I'm just saying that's so, like, if you're doing if as you described, you're doing like Marut, that's 120 points. You just go kill both, or you find both. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying, like, there's a chance that the list you described, especially the one where it's like I've got Achilles and I've got what's his face.
I'll make that list. The Asura.
Sure.
It's not that crazy. Like,
your chain of command's expensive is all I'm saying. Like, if you're taking the chain of command models in this list, I think there's 2 of them. Actually, I don't think you get all the chain of command in this either. Remember, officer, you do get the Shukra, and you can take John Hawkwoods. You have 3 of them, but they're like 40 points, 25 points.
Oh, you bring the Shukra because counter,
right? Like,
actually. There you go.
Yeah, you get one Myrmidon officer. You can have 1 Shukra and 1 John Hawkwood potentially, and they're all relatively expensive. So hunting that order pool, if you're making your Aleph list lost lieutenant resistant, and you see one of those 3 units who are going to be chain of command because they have to be, then you don't do the assassination run. I'm just saying having it as an option is great, and if you have it as an option, maybe go kill the chain of command guy instead of killing the big piece. Right, you send your Fide to kill the Myrmidon officer or the Sugar Consultant because they're way more killable than the Marut is right away.
Lots of choices.
Because once those models are dead, then they're not resistant to assassination again.
Yeah, you could go down from Asura to what's her name?
Penny or
No, there's
Hippolyta.
one of the sergeants has a pitcher and a Cilia.
Scylla. Yeah, she's great.
Scylla.
She's the one with
Yeah.
like, you know, Evo with Trinity +1 damage. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean,
Tons of
as
options.
stated, there's lots of options. That's the biggest thing you're going to be dealing with here.
Yeah, and against a big
people.
mixed list like this, picking your targets becomes really important. And sometimes the target is slow the roll of the big guys by killing the supporting pieces, or pick out the right supporting piece to try and lop off the head, and then you shutter the whole thing to a halt.
I still don't understand why people don't play more of the vanilla factions.
Links are just powerful.
Yeah, it's a straight line. It's harder to manage more individual pieces than it is to manage a mechanically powerful fire team. I think Infinity is a fairly complicated game, Dan, and playing factions without fire teams or playing like big, broad, lots of model factions is just more mentally taxing than playing sectorials with like sort of like simple, mechanically powerful fire teams.
I find it simpler to not play with the fire teams because you don't have to worry about fire team management and movements and all that other stuff.
That's your 12th level intelligence, man. That's what I'm saying. Like you're Lex Luthering it. You see past the mundane at this point.
The ability to
see value in diversity.
Links, in my opinion, is harder than individual models. Like, yeah, the Marut's real scary on its own, but it is on its own. And like it can't watch every direction. And if you get it with your link has all of these mechanical buffs. So like his really good stats are actually just the same as your random Ghulam now. Or like a Pano HMG Fusilier has the same firepower as the Marut does. And you're like, oh, yeah, I guess that's how that works. So like I get it.
It's also hard to this is the one time where I'll agree with Owen that the 15 model cap hurts certain factions. It hurts vanilla factions.
Absolutely.
Because
way more than any
I
of the
think that
sectorials.
I think that being able to take a diverse list of 20 to 30 point models and having like 20 options is probably the most powerful build in Infinity. You have more goes, you have more do-overs, you have more backup plans, you have more redundancy in your list. And that 15 model hard cap, I think it's important for it to be there, but it unfairly punishes non-mechanical builds, right? Where you're trying to go for list diversity, I think. Not skews, because the AVAs and the vanilla factions are all very low. They're usually 1 to 2, so you can't skew anyway. But you can take a big, wide, diverse like selection of models that give you lots of different options to do different jobs. And I think the 15 model hard cap pushes that down. If I was to make one change in Infinity, I'd say remove the hard cap for vanilla factions and just keep it for the sectorials.
Yeah. Come on, Coom Riders. You're coming out of retirement as soon as that happens.
There's still AVAT, that's right.
Yeah.
Then we ride again. Zumi and Ziveka can just like sound the alarm.
Call your cousins. It's time to go.
That's right. It turns into fast X, where it's all about family. That's right. Yeah, everyone's riding for family.
Yeah.
What was that? You sent me a poster once where it was like the brick and then the ghost of what's his name. Oh my god, what was that? That Fast and Furious like fake promo where instead of having throwing the rock, his name was just the brick and the ghost of Paul Walker. There's just a burning skeleton. Oh, it's so bad. Oh man, I love the Fast and Furious movies because they're just completely over the top. They've lost all semblance of being reality. It makes me so happy.
I think that would actually be such a good adjustment. Like thinking more about it.
Yeah, taking the hard cap off for vanilla. Yeah, I think so too. You'd have to adjust the AVAs.
I mean, do you? But the sectorials,
I wouldn't keep any T's. I would keep T's for like Ghulams and stuff like that, maybe, but I wouldn't keep T's for necessarily things like Coom. And I think it's like a warband or like a fast. I think it skews into a direction. I wouldn't keep the T's on.
I mean, you could even just pump it to 20, right? It doesn't need to be unlimited. It just gives them that's their answer to not getting the mechanical power. Because like fire teams used to be limited much more when
they were.
You couldn't mix everyone into like a big soup of a fire team. But then
you do get duos too, which is worth noting. You do still get fire teams in vanilla.
No mechanical power though, other than movement, which is
in order efficiency.
Yeah. But no straight up, these models are now better than what they had.
Yeah, no extra rules for sure. Yeah.
I don't know. That's not really related to Aleph, but
worthy talking when we're talking about the vanilla factions in general and what they get, because that is the we're talking about the strength that Aleph has, is the ability to combine those two very different sub factions into a single faction that gets all the advantages basically put together.
Yeah, they are. I don't know. Aleph's a weird one, in my opinion. It has so many of those superheroes. I'm hard pressed to see the reason to play. Like, I mean, this isn't really an answer because someone out there does play vanilla Aleph, I'm sure.
And
why do you do that? What's your reason? Make a comment why it is that you're like, you know what? I don't want to play Steel Phalanx and I don't want to play SSS. Though I can understand why you wouldn't want to play SSS.
I think it's the mix, though. I think you answered your own question.
I've played too much Steel Phalanx. I need to bring something that isn't just 5 million people with swords.
Yeah, I mean, you can take 5 million people with guns too. I would give it a go. Try the Garudas. Try the people.
I bought a Marut and I play Steel Phalanx, so now I play vanilla.
You sure do. Yeah, you just gotta get things like the Apsaris. I think if you start taking those units that you look at as sleeper units that are in OSSS that you didn't play, the Apsaris, the Rem Driver, like
I barely even brought links when we played.
I remember. Yeah. Oh yeah. You brought some Harrises and that was about it. You didn't bring the big Quarter King link.
Yeah, I definitely leaned on the so I was so surprised that I forgot about the Arjuna unit because they're so good. Like I have 2 of them. Like I still have them. Yeah, I sold my Aleph and I still have them.
You still have enough Aleph to play Aleph.
Yeah, I could still play OSS and now I could play a ton of Steel Phalanx stuff. So
perfect. Yeah. Well, there it is. We did it. We got another episode done. We did our 3 takedown videos podcasts. We nailed it. We crushed it. We did everything we wanted to do.
I'm just sitting here in my underwear.
Well, so here's the thing, Dan, is I think from now we need to start working on Yu Ching because you've got your Yu Ching. We promised we would do another faction breakdown episode by episode. What order is it in? Yu Ching. We don't. I know lots about Yu Ching, but Dan's going to lead the way like he did with 012, and we're going to teach him how to play Yu Ching. What's the first one?
Talk straight out of my ass.
White Banner. You get to start with Dr. Bruce White Banner. Bombarded by the gamma rays.
Only ever bring
next week. Actually, White Banner's a good one to start on because it's not huge either. White Banner's a nice trim little guy.
It's the one I've looked at the least.
And it also has lots of things we already talked about, like Beast Hunters, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll love it. It'll be great.
Beast Hunter in Yu Jing has a separate profile. It's pricey.
I know it's so good, but it's so good.
If it gets into combat, it's
the exploding close combat weapon one because he's a Shaolin monk.
Burst.
Yeah, man, he's amazing. +1 burst. The exploding close combat. It's amazing. CC21 natural born warrior.
Let's see. What do I got?
Damage 15. Oh my god,
yeah.
He's so good.
Insane.
All right, well there it is. Thanks guys for another faction breakdown. And we'll be back next week. We're gonna do our listener mailbag next week too, which should be finally filled up when the patrons actually stop being so lazy and start actually asking questions. And we have
more Patreons.
We do. We got our lovely patrons, and they are lovely. We love them so much, and they're gonna go fill up the mailbag so we can get some actual questions to answer, and do a Q&A session at the end of the next episode. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Personal questions.
It's only that's right. Only the most personal questions. All right, night everybody.